every single day, no matter if I travel or not, I get out of bed, I put my feet on the ground, and I'm very purpose driven, right? I'm very purpose driven, but I know I got something to do that day, 7 days a week. But I walk straight into the bathroom. And before I go to the bathroom or get my coffee, and I love coffee too, I wash my hands and then I do a 3 count cold water on my face. The first one's just a thank you. The second one is grateful for today. And the third one is grateful for my life. And that 3-part routine, then go do my gratitude letter. Sometimes I mix it up. I meditate first. Sometimes I read first. Depends on my mood and intuition at the time or the season, honestly. But it's like super powerful. All right, guys, I got a hell of a guest on the show today. May McCarthy has authored 2 books. She's a best-selling author, 9-figure entrepreneur, has built 8 companies, but most importantly, she's a fantastic human who's guided by the CSO. And she's going to explain the concept of not only the CSO, but gratitude for us from the perspective of someone who's been utilizing it for 5 decades. Okay, May McCarthy, what's going on? How are you?
I am just great. Thank you so much for letting me join your conversation today.
Of course, we're grateful for you being here. I think that goes without saying. And I'm excited to talk about things that you're very familiar with, a subject matter expert on, and shed some light on some topics that probably you could go vastly more in depth than I can, which would yield a large outcome for anyone listening when it comes to value and education. So I'm excited. I'm just excited. I need you to know that.
Well, thank you. I am too.
Yeah. So you have been an entrepreneur for north of 40 years, if I'm not mistaken.
I have. Dating me there, Chris.
we can rewind that back to 30 years if you want.
No, we'll go with it. I actually started my first business when I was 6.
Oh,
so I guess it would be 57 years. Yeah.
Wow. What were you doing? Selling lemonade?
Actually, no, 54 years. I apologize. My math is off. So I grew up in a family, the last of 10 children, born and raised in Hawaii. And I remember my mom and dad telling all of us kids, mostly the older kids, look, we're going to provide for you. We're going to have a roof over your head and some food and clothes and things like that. But if there's anything extra that you want, you have to figure out a way to create a fair exchange of value for it. And here I am, a little kid listening. And the way it was described is that my brothers and sisters could do something for other people, sometimes my parents, and they could get rewarded with money in return. It would be a fair exchange of value. And so I saw my brothers, cutting hedges and mowing lawns and washing cars. And my sisters were babysitting and doing working at the movie theater and, different things like that. And so I came to my mom when I was 6 years old. And I said, there are people on the beach in front of our house that look really thirsty. So I want to create these little frozen mini ice cups. Do you remember those jugs of juice syrup that were just colored sugar water, and you'd mix them with water and then freeze them? So they were kind of like popsicles. Mm-hmm. But I got these little Dixie cups and I froze them, and I had trays of them. And I taught my brothers and all their friends how to take money. You could get 2 for a quarter or 1 for 15 cents. And I had my advertising all the way around our outside fence, those little paper plates that said ice cups for sale. And I listed like 10 different flavors, but I only had 2 flavors at a time from those 10. And so people would come to the door, pay their money, get their ice cups. And that grew to a pretty good sized business where I was able, and I took a loan out from my mom to get the material. She taught me, costs of goods sold. And then she had to teach me the really interesting lesson about shrinkage, because my brothers and their friends would eat them without paying for them. So I had to figure out all of that in my in my financials. But that was a great experience. And I had a couple other businesses when I was younger, and then had my first, I guess 8 businesses now when I started it as a sophomore in college with my sister.
That's wild. And we call that theft typically outside of family,
Shrinkage.
stealing, shrinkage. Yeah. Now, as a sophomore in college, you said, is that when you started in the medical industry? Medical
No.
sales? No.
So when I was going to school in Seattle, my sister had decided she didn't want to be in real estate anymore. She had a young daughter and she wanted to spend weekends with her daughter. So she had this idea to create retail fashion shows where we would retail garments through fashion shows, and we would host them in hotels, military bases, restaurants, places like that. So we would get hired to come in as entertainment during, let's say, happy hour or something like that. And then we would retail the garments and wrap them up in these black, shiny, almost look like patent leather boxes with this beautiful foil writing scarlet ribbon, because that was the name of our company. So while I was in college, we had about 250 employees that we grew the company to. We had 60 shows a week in the Seattle and Washington and Oregon. And then we sold franchises to Alaska and New Jersey.
Wow.
And then ultimately sold that company. So I was going to school full time and working full time at this job as well. And so we did pretty good there. Then I had a stint, a year and a half at Boeing as a purchasing agent for major capital machinery. I'm really a salesperson and I hate waste. I hate waste of time. I hate waste of resources. And Boeing's a giant company. And so here I come with this entrepreneurial mindset. I got raises, 2 raises while I was there in a year and a half. And I got offered a job that they made up in order to keep me. But I really wanted to be back out customer facing, back out in sales, because that's really where I belong. So I thanked them and I went to Johnson Johnson. I moved down to the San Francisco Bay Area, stayed with them a year. It was kind of interesting. Once again, an entrepreneurial mindset makes you think outside the box. So I helped them secure a ton of new business that they had not been planning on. And was pretty creative and had some fun. I fixed some problems for them that they had with their pricing in one of their giant customers called Kmart. And I got lots and lots of pats on the back and kudos from corporate, but I got in a lot of trouble with my immediate supervisor. And the reason being is I would just do these things and they turned out successful. But I guess some of your audience may be climbing the corporate ladder. And generally speaking, immediate supervisors want to have opportunities to take glory for the work that their team is doing. So they have to know about what their team is doing. And I did tell my supervisor about one thing I was doing, and he told me it was foolish. It was a stupid idea, and I should just leave it. And I couldn't, because I really liked the customer. Well, that turned into about $5 million worth of new business for Johnson Johnson. That was unexpected. So he got to take credit for it being in his territory, but he didn't get to prep the superiors in advance to take credit for the actual work. And anyway, I knew I was making his life miserable. I didn't mean to. I really didn't. I was just having fun doing what I do to help customers
You were
out.
being proactive.
Yeah, I was just helping customers out and figuring out creative ways to increase revenue and to help them achieve their objectives as well. Right. So anyway, after a year, I knew I was making this guy miserable, and I just said, you know what, I gotta leave. And so I went back to Seattle and I started my first of 3 telecommunications businesses. So my largest business in telecommunication was with my husband, or I guess it was my boyfriend at the time that we started this company and then got married. But it was an international phone company where we reversed calls. So back in the 90s, you didn't have the luxury of just not paying for phone calls. A lot of countries overseas only had one phone company, and that was generally the phone company that was owned by the government. So they charged a lot. So if you're in Germany, let's say, and you wanted to call the United States, it might be 3 times the cost of me calling you from the United States. So what we did was we gave everyone an individual DID number that was a subscriber of ours. And you would call that number to the US, you'd hear it ring once and hang up. So that's an incomplete call. So you don't get charged for it. But our switching platforms, and we had giant switching equipment in LA, Seattle, New York City, London, Melbourne, Australia, a couple of other smaller sites. And we would see that you tried to call us. So we would look you up in our computer system, and our automated system would call you back at the number that you told us to call you back on. So once you receive that call, you can press the pound key and make a call anywhere else in the world at US rates. So I'm calling you back, and then you can make a call to anywhere else at a fraction of the price. So we grew that to a little over 120 million in annual revenues. And I went around the world and signed up US embassies and all sorts of different expat companies and oil companies. And we also had agents that were selling for us in a lot of different countries. And that saved people a lot of money. But at the end of, when the 2000s came, deregulation was taking effect pretty substantially overseas. And so I sold my interest and simultaneously got divorced. And so we parted ways very amicably, very, very kindly.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I was thinking about something else to do and got an opportunity to get into healthcare. So I had telecommunications businesses that were in healthcare already.
Yeah.
But then I moved into healthcare for software and equipment for the hospital pharmacy systems. Those are my last 2 companies.
Okay. So much to unpack, but let's that's wild, by the way, because I remember the phones on the walls in the 90s and so on and so forth. I remember the caller ID coming out, and I remember the internet and taking the phone line and so on and so forth. I remember the encyclopedia guy coming to the door trying to sell Britannica, and my mom like falling for it, and I'm holding the AOL disc up, and I'm like, "No, Mom, no, it's this. It's not that anymore. It's this," But it's funny that
you'll love this. Then I have a couple of stepsons from my first marriage, and one of them was 11 years old, and he knew how to fly all over the internet when it was DOS, before we even had Windows, before AOL existed. So he was flying all over the place. And we got this delivery to our door, and some professor, some scientist at some university that my stepson was talking to had sent him C++ programming manuals. This kid got on a couch and he read through every one of those manuals. And he said, "Boy, what a waste of time. I could shorten the process like that." So we put him to work and parked him with some of the programmers for our international phone company.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if he went that route.
Yeah, well, he, obviously had to go to school, and he was 11-year-old. But he was able to see where time could be saved and efficiencies could be gained. I mean, a real genius kid. He's now a radiologist, a physician. So, brilliant kid.
All right. So he definitely is intelligent, and it worked out for him.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was that he understood how to communicate on the internet. See, the internet used to be just for academics and universities to speak to each other because there was no Windows overlay. It wasn't easy to use. You had to know when to put in your slashes and your colons and things like that in order to talk. But then, Windows came along and made it easy for all of us to be able to access the internet. And then, of course, it's just gotten better and better. Or
Yeah,
some
that
people
was
would
the
say worse and worse because we spend too much time on it. But if you want to know something, it's a good place to start.
for sure. Okay, so I have two questions for you regarding your journey that
Okay.
I think would be super valuable to anyone listening going through the journey. Selfishly, I want to know what it's like running a 9-figure company because I haven't gotten there yet, but that's not what's most important. Tell me about, if you don't mind, maybe the scariest time you had during your journey of what you just recapped. Like, was there one moment that was scarier than any other moment? And what did you do to make it through that point? Because what we found is a lot of people quit at that point.
So in my book, The Path to Wealth, and also in the Gratitude Formula, which
Is
is
that
my,
that lawsuit?
there's a whole bunch of stories. How about the only programmer that understood our software for our company getting arrested for bank robbery? That was in that book. That was pretty scary. And I also give some tools. So anybody that reads the book can learn how I handled that. I've been sued. My companies have been sued a lot. There's a philosophy in corporate America today. And one of the ways that what they use is the law, the legal system as a competitive advantage. And what I mean by that is if you're a little startup, like I was, my last two companies, we were competing with 3 Fortune 20 companies and 1 Fortune 200 company, and then another company.
So big boys.
Yeah, they have entire buildings that are devoted to just their attorneys, their in-house attorneys. So their salespeople are out always spreading FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, to the customers that your company is way too small. They shouldn't take a chance on you, that sort of thing.
That's entry
And,
level sales.
and then, in addition to that, if you do have some success and they want to bog you down and drain your cash, they come up with a frivolous lawsuit and send it your way. So in the telecommunications industry, we got sued by AT&T, MCI, and Sprint all at the same time. And the case had to go up to the Federal Communications Commission to be decided. And we won because it was in the consumer's best interest that we continue to operate. In my 2 pharmacy automation companies, both AmerisourceBergen and McKesson had sued us. And then also, had AmerisourceBergen sued us and McKesson threatened us. And then the company that we left to start a new company ended up suing us. And my attorney was brilliant and was able to settle that. And we actually got paid. We got a check. So that he said in 45 years of litigation, he'd never had that happen. We never did anything wrong in any of those lawsuits. But what you have to do as a CEO or part of a leadership team, when you're being sued, you have to spend a lot of time making it as easy as possible for your attorneys to do their job. And what I mean by that is stay up all night putting together the chronology, putting together all of the documents that are necessary. Because if you don't do it, they're going to have to do it, and they're going to charge you hundreds of dollars per hour. And you're a startup and you don't have that kind of money. So what I did was I made a deal with my business partners. Look, I'll handle this. I'll still do my real job. All right. But I'll handle this. You guys just continue to operate the way you operate. If you're asked by customers about this situation, your response is as follows. If we had done anything wrong, the judge would have gone ahead and granted an injunction, and I wouldn't be sitting here showing you the value proposition to be of service to you. But the judge did not see that we had done anything wrong. That's why we're still operating in business. Now, we're going to handle this legally, and our team is doing that. But we're here to serve you and help you to solve problems that you have in your hospital pharmacy. So that would counteract that fear, uncertainty, and doubt that the salespeople of the people suing us are trying to disclose. The only time you really have to be worried in a lawsuit, although there are many hours and evenings that you worry, it's just the nature of the beast, because you have a certain amount of cash flow to operate your business, and having an unexpected lawsuit is draining cash flow. So it's a scary, scary thing. You want it resolved as soon as possible. And there's a story in my book that talks about one of those lawsuits. We got sued because a vendor that served us and the other company decided not to provide products to the large company that sued us. And so when you get quiet in your path to wealth practice and you're meeting with that source of intuition, which I refer to as the CSO, and you're declaring out loud and also in your thoughts and your emotions that this can be resolved for everyone's highest and greatest good, that there's enough business out there for everyone. Mm-hmm. That's when those intuitive hits can come that give you a creative idea to handle the problem, to come up with a solution that you might not have thought of before. So my biggest job when there are unexpected, scary things that happen in business and in life, you immediately get hit with this emotion.
Right.
But you have to get yourself to that calm place as fast as possible.
Centered, yeah.
And then start describing what you really want. You know, you want this matter to be dissolved. You want it to be resolved. You want everyone to go free and to thrive and prosper. You want the customers to be taken care of and to be treated fairly and honestly and with integrity. Mm-hmm. So you start being grateful for those things in advance, even though you don't have them right there. And then those intuitive thoughts come up to give you some suggestions to take steps to make your statements, your gratitude statements true. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I've been through litigation too. And I'm only in year 15, but I've learned that it's a part of doing business, unfortunately. And I too used a very similar approach, declaring in gratitude that everything was done with and everyone walked away fairly, right? And it's super powerful. I'm just, long story short, but it's super powerful to be able to center yourself, affirm it, believe it, understand it, hear it, and it happened. So when I talk to anyone that maybe hasn't been in these situations yet, it's hard to conceptualize, but I do know how stressful and time-consuming court systems can be. And I remember reading it in your book as well. So I understand. And that...
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that could be scary. And all I really wanted to do outside of that was then hear about your best day in contrast in business. However, if there's something to say regarding the worst.
Yeah. So I know litigation is something not everyone has gone through. So another example is, I remember in my first, when I left Johnson Johnson, came back, started my own company, and contracted with a group, what they call a group of customers that buys together so they can each get a better price. Mm-hmm. And I had a telecommunications resale company, and there was something that happened with the person that was directing the business our way. And they had a falling out with this group of customers. And so the customers yanked all their business as a group from me. That was about 60% of my business
Ooh.
gone just like that.
Ooh.
Talk about freak out. I was
Oh.
crying. That was because we were doing a lot of business. This was one of those really great businesses where every single month you make 31% off of the total volume of telecommunications usage from all the customers that you have all over the country. So 60% is lost in one day, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was crushed. It was something I didn't expect. I was terrified because you're planning on that revenue as part of your growth strategy.
Yeah.
And now this revenue is gone just like that.
Yeah.
So that's incredibly scary. And so what I have in both of my books, a lot of affirmations that I encourage people to use when they're freaked out and scared. Like, there's no loss in divine mind. Therefore, anything that may appear like a loss is now returned to me. It's either these customers or even something better. So it took me a very short period of time by repeating these affirmations over and over and over and over and over again. It took me a very short period of time to come up with some creative ideas in order to not only get that 60% back, but double it in a really short period of time. So we can wallow and blame and, oh, that guy shouldn't have done that. Oh, he's such a jerk. Oh, how did he do that? Yeah, it's the whole world out there against me, right? We can do that. And it's okay to do that for about 1 minute. But then start using those affirmations, even if you don't believe them. Even if you don't believe them, they're working. Keep saying them. The first day, you might have to say them 5,000 times. The next day, you'll only have to say them 4,999. But you keep saying them, and eventually you start to believe it. And then that's when the magic happens. You get all these intuitive ideas, and you become magnetic to the thing that you're describing that you want.
I did it while working out today. Right. I was working out today. I was doing some shoulders, like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing some cables and I'm just sitting there. I lose and let go. I lose and let go. I lose and let go. Just bang, bang, bang for probably like 10 minutes.
I love it.
I just went through a, silly situation in my perspective anyways. And it is what it is. So I'm just like, I was like a little off by it. So I was just affirming it. And as I'm doing my shoulders and I'm like, I'm good to go. You just kind of, I just think the repetitiveness is critical, but I have also lost 60% of my revenue due to COVID. So I understand how that goes too. And these painful times also are able to teach us just how great the light can be when it does come back. And, as we know, that's the power of gratitude. And speaking of gratitude, let's talk about the difference between CSO and God for a second. Just understand that on my first book, I use your book as the reference point for the advanced version of what I'm teaching. And one of the biggest questions that I get is, well, Chris, why can't I say, dear God? And I'm like, well, first things first, you could say it to whoever is important to you. There's no one best belief system. First and foremost, it's like a diet. What's the best diet? There's no one best diet. The best diet is the one that works for you. And I would imagine it's similar when it comes to your belief systems for who you're getting your supply from, speaking on gratitude or life or business or whatever we're speaking on. So let me shut up for a second. And let me ask you, when we are in the light or looking for the light, and we are addressing our gratitude journal or gratitude note or whatever our form of gratitude is, why can't we address it to God versus CSO, or can it be both or one or the other?
So in my book, in my workshops, I always ask people to address it to whoever or whatever they feel is the source of their intuition and the source of their power and their source of their supply and the source of intelligence. So it's kind of fun in my workshops. If I have less than a certain number of people, I actually go around the room and ask people to name that source of intuition.
Love it.
I've heard people say they like the idea of CSO, and I'll tell you the story about why I came up with CSO. But they use God, they use Holy Spirit, they use divine intelligence, they use love, they use universal power. One guy used Fred.
Right.
Another guy uses my friend.
Mm.
I don't really care what people call that source of intuition. It doesn't matter to me. The reason I chose CSO was because I had been using the practice and use all of those names, but I decided I wanted to bring this principle into my last company. And so I was thinking, okay, so I've got a chief financial officer, CFO, who is a subject matter expert on finances. And I rely on him to give me advice regarding finances. Mm-hmm. I have a chief marketing officer, a chief information officer, a chief operating officer.
The C-suites.
Exactly. Well, I decided that this divine intelligence, this spiritual partner that I have, the source of my intuition, knows more about everything than all these people combined.
Yeah.
So I actually put the CSO at the top of my organizational chart so that I, as the CEO, reported to it. Mm. And you can imagine all my employees are like, what? Who's the CSO?
Who's this guy?
Yeah. Do we ever get to meet them?
Yeah.
And I said, the CSO is a principle. And so what I want you to do with this principle is anytime you have a problem or something that unexpected comes up that freaks you out, I want you to pause. I want you to take a couple deep breaths, and I want you to describe to yourself what you would really like the outcome to be. So if you have an angry, pissed off customer, I want you to say, I would really like to have this customer happy, using our superior products and services in valuable ways for their company. And then I ask them to end it with, and I'm grateful for that, CSO. Thanks for your help. Okay, so they agreed to try it out. And I said, text me, email me, call me, let me know how it's going. Oh my God, I got flooded, absolutely flooded. Now, in my company, we had a lot of different religious traditions. The CSO principle is not religion. You still practice whatever religion you want. If you do practice one, it doesn't matter to me. But we had every tradition practiced in our company by the employees when they would do their private practice. Mm-hmm. But everyone could get behind this idea of a source of intuition, a divine intelligence, a creative force in the universe. So many of them just called the CSO what they refer to in their religion as that ultimate creative force. I use God, I use spirit, I use divine intelligence, universal mind, but CSO is my buddy. And we just go around attached at the hip all day long. And the biggest benefit for me is that when stuff happens, I can just get quiet and listen for that still small voice. Because, and sometimes it shows up as a gut instinct. Sometimes it shows up as a picture in my head, a thought to contact someone or to go somewhere.
Yeah. I
have a choice. I can either take some action, like call someone or go somewhere, or I can ask for another lead and say, CSO, if that's from you, I need another lead. For example, I was on a business trip to Cleveland. And one of my goals, we were a pretty young startup, and one of my goals was to have a minimum or more of $400,000 in revenue by this particular period of time. And I had been using that in my morning practice every day. I'm in Cleveland, I'm at the airport, I grab my rental car and my bags, I get to the hotel, drop everything off, and then I get back in the car. It's 9:00 at night, and I'm going to go to the grocery store. It's about 5 minutes away. To get protein shakes and water, things that I'd like for my stay. All of a sudden, I get this picture of a grocery store that I know that's 15 minutes away. I've been to Cleveland many times. So I get this picture of this store and I think, well, So I just said, hey, CSO, if this is from you, give me another lead. Well, immediately my rational mind starts jumping in there. May. It's 9 o'clock at night. You shouldn't be driving across town in Cleveland at 9 o'clock at night. And you should get a good night's sleep because your appointment's at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. You don't want to be too tired. You want to make a good impression. And I'm listening to that going, CSO, is there anything else I should know? Well, that's when the intuitive mind that Albert Einstein refers to. He said we have a rational mind and an intuitive mind. So that's when the intuitive mind can jump in and say, well, yeah, it's 9 o'clock at night, but it's only 6 o'clock in Seattle. It's too early for you to go to sleep anyway. You won't go to sleep right now. And who knows, maybe everything you want will be on sale. Just make the drive. So I did. As I'm walking into the grocery store, I recognized a guy that was walking out. I had met him 6 months before at a trade show. He represented a potential giant customer. And here we are, face to face. So he asked me what I'm in town for. And I mentioned, well, we're doing an expansion on this health system. We're adding more of their hospitals. He asked who else we were serving. I let him know. He goes, wait a minute, how long are you going to be in town? And I'm thinking to myself, as long as it takes to make an appointment with you.
Yeah.
But I said, well, a few days. And he said, great, here's my cell number. Call me tomorrow. Let's get you on the books while you're in town. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Well, that appointment led to another appointment, and a signed contract for
$400,000.
Over 400,000.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all go to business school. We read business books. We plan out our goals. We take the steps necessary. How many of us would think that driving across town to a grocery store at 9 o'clock at night is going to earn us $400,000 worth of business? The way the CSO principle works, this intuitive assistance works, is it's beyond our rational mind. Bill Gates, who you have to, like him or not, you have to admit he's incredibly successful.
He's a billionaire.
He said often you have to rely on intuition.
Yep.
And Steve Jobs, he said that you actually have to have courage to follow
another billionaire.
And intuition. And Oprah Winfrey, one of the most successful women of all time.
And another billionaire.
Yeah. She said that she has listened to that small voice of intuition her entire life. And the only times she's made mistakes,
not listening to it. Yeah.
So the CSO principle is your spiritual partner. And the reason that I call it spiritual is simply because you can't see it.
Yeah. You
can't see it and touch it, but you can see proof. And
when you trust. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Can I ask you something? And I don't mean to cut you off. Did I cut you off? No. Wild explanation, high level, amazing. Let me ask you something. When it comes to CSO giving you leads, nudges, sometimes I call them downloads if they're like extensive. That's a conversation for another day though. So what would you say in regards to someone maybe not understanding the difference between their intuition, their nudges from their spiritual partner or religious partner, or in this case, CSO, the difference between getting a message from the CSO and their ego speaking to them? How would you decipher the difference between the two? Because we all know that our ego can be quite powerful. Everybody has an ego. It can be quite powerful, and it could also tune out your intuition depending on how, for lack of better terms, unaware you are of your ego. How would you decipher the difference?
Okay. So in this practice, there are roles and responsibilities for you and your partner. Okay. Partner is the CSO or whatever you choose to call it, source of your intuition. Your job is to figure out what it is that you want and describe it with gratitude as though you already have it. The CSO's job is to give you an intuitive hit, one step to take at a time. You don't even know what goal is being worked on. You get one step to take at a time. Your job is to either take the step or to ask for another lead. What you're not allowed to do anymore is do nothing. Okay. So you can ask for as many leads as you want until you feel comfortable that it's okay to take the step.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this CSO or God or spirit or whatever is never going to get pissed off at you. All right. This is a partnership. So you either take the step, you take action, like me driving to the grocery store, or you ask for another lead. If you get another lead that makes you feel okay, take the step. If you get a lead that makes you feel fearful, scared, any negative emotion, it's
Ask for
probably
another.
ask for another lead for sure, but that probably came from your ego.
So you're saying
So,
the scared or negative emotion would likely come from ego?
yeah, so your ego wants to protect you.
Right.
And it's fearful of the unknown.
Comfort. Yeah.
Right.
Driven by fear. Yeah.
So something that happens is, and I talk about this in the second book, but I'll explain it to you right now quite simply. Your brain loves you. Your ego loves you. Okay. Your brain wants to protect you and prevent you from harm or from disappointment. And it remembers all the times that you had goals in the past that you didn't achieve. It remembers all those times. And so when someone has a goal that maybe deep down inside they don't really think is possible, then the brain, in order to protect you, is going to put the CSO's intuitive hits on mute. So what we have to do is figure out a way to change our belief to possibility. And the way that we do that is we go and we read stories about people that have already achieved what it is that we want to achieve.
Optimism. Yeah.
We go ahead and talk to some of those people if we can. And as we start to get familiar and welcome that idea of possibility into our life, we eventually get to the point where we think, wow, if they could do it, I could do it. Mm-hmm. And then the brain takes intuition off of mute and you start getting flooded with intuitive hits. You still go ahead, if you want to, say, I'm not sure this is the right course of action for me. Give me another lead and see what happens. I had an opportunity to do a business deal with I guess they were a Fortune 200 company. Anyway, they were a $15.5 billion company out of California. They wanted to resell our software and equipment to their customers. And I had known a lot of the players from a previous company. Mm-hmm. And I had told you I had two businesses that were similar back to back. Mm-hmm. So I remember all these players when they were with a different company. And their strategy is to slow pay. And I know it's a great strategy for giant companies. If they slow pay, maybe you'll get in financial trouble and then they can buy you for a song, right? I'm not saying that was their strategy. They may have just been really, really inefficient, but they slow paid me when they were part of a Fortune 20 company. So they spun off and now they're a Fortune 200 company.
Yeah, you knew their patterns.
I did. So I was really biased and I thought, hell no, I'm not going to do anything with them. Well, I kept getting leads over and over and over again to at least entertain the idea because my goals that I was writing about and speaking about included giant amounts of revenue at that point. And these people selling our products could get us there, right? Yeah. But I was biased. So I kept saying I'd get a lead and I'd say, oh, CSO, I'm not sure. I need another lead. Remember, you either take the step or you ask for another lead. You're not allowed to do anything anymore.
The negative emotion came up, which constituted ego. Yeah.
Right. So after about 50 solid leads that even my business partners like, wait a minute, May, these are amazing CSO leads. Why aren't you taking advantage? Mm-hmm. And I said, I still have this bias. Well, one day I'm driving to work across the bridge and I see this billboard and it says, your fortune will be made in San Diego. Well, that's where this company is. Yeah, I started cracking up because my CSO has a sense of humor. And I went to the office and called the president of the company and we set up a meeting. I had all of these intuitive ideas to put in the contract ways to protect us and financially. And it worked out great. In fact, 2 years later, they ended up buying us.
So it was win-win for everyone.
It was win-win for everyone.
That's amazing. And that's a great story to reinforce the question regarding ego versus intuition here. And, if we had more time, I would go deeper, but that's a beautiful thing because I know personally a lot of people get confused on the difference between what am I hearing? Am I hearing my ego? Am I hearing God or CSO? Am I hearing my intuition? I don't know. And it's a very common question that I get given the style of business that I teach. And your explanation is fantastic because it worked out for everybody.
Right. So if you feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
Going somewhere, calling someone, doing whatever you feel is the intuitive lead. If you're uncomfortable, just ask for another lead.
Yep.
But,
you're just building a relationship is really what you're doing.
But ultimately, you have to take some action.
Yeah.
There have been some times where I felt like maybe I got a lead, but I wasn't sure. So I would say, hey, CSO, I think that this is the route I should go. So I'm going to take this step. If this is not the path I should go on, slam the door shut and point me in a different direction. If it is, open it up and make it obvious that this is the right way for me to go. So that's action faith. And faith is simply confidence. Yeah. All right. When you're feeling a little unsure, but you're not feeling really, really uncomfortable or scared. You can demonstrate some action faith and say, hey, partner, I'm going to take this step. Correct me. Slam the door shut if it's not the right route and point me in a different direction. I'm sorry, go ahead. It's a two-way, we just don't hear and see our partner. Yeah. But our partner is always there to give us the information. And here's the deal. As we build up our confidence that this partnership is working for our benefit, we start to see more leads. Mm-hmm. And what used to seem like miracles, oh my God, it was a miracle that I got that deal after walking into a grocery store at 9:00. You knew it was already going to happen. Those start to happen so frequently that miracles just become typicals. Yeah. And I didn't mean to talk over you. You loved last time we spoke my explanation on how I convinced myself of faith. It took a while. Right? It was the affirmation that I used. I give up and trust. I give up and trust. I used it for like a year, May, like every day, every day, even when I'm sick, I do my morning routine. You know what I mean? So long story short, action and faith are definitely two of the hardest parts, but the faith part for a lot of people seems to be the most daunting, at least from the people that I talk to. The action part is the premise of desiring something here and holding it into your hand, right? The laws of the universe, with all of them, you actually have to do the work. Yeah. But if you have faith and you do the work, well, you're a living representation of works. Well, I would love to give a little reminder. Yes. To your audience. And I would ask them to remember when they learned to ride a bike, drive a car, type on that crazy keyboard that's not even in alphabetical order, right? We weren't perfect when we tried all these things the very first time. We had to practice and practice. And we knew that riding a bike was possible because all our friends and family were doing it. Yeah. So we'd crash and we'd get up and we'd practice. We'd think about and see. Sometimes we'd dream about riding a bike perfectly. We'd get that feeling. We're so excited. We know we're going to ride a bike, but we have to practice in order to get it down, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with driving a car. We had to practice and pay attention to every single little thing. And now you could probably drive, from point A to point B that you drive all the time and not even remember the drive, because you've done it so many times. So repetition and practice reap the rewards. The reps. So this practice is new for a lot of people. Yeah. And that's why I ask them to please commit to do this first thing in the morning. Yep. I mean, if you're a coffee addict like I am, I go get coffee, use bathroom, and then I sit down and I do my CSO. And the reason that we do it first thing in the morning is because whatever you program into your brain first thing in the morning is what your subconscious and your intuitive partner are going to work on illuminating. They're going to filter billions of pieces of data that are coming at you every single day and illuminate those things that are in alignment with what you've programmed into your brain. If you pick up your mobile device, you start looking at social media and news, you're going to see more evidence of that all day long. All of that instead of what you want. So commit to 30 days. After 30 days, your CSO might recommend that you change the practice to be more unique to your relationship. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a blueprint.
But get in the practice of first thing in the morning. Set your alarm for a half an hour earlier if you can. But just remember, that's what it took to ride a bike, to type, to drive, to do anything that you're good at doing now. This is the same kind of thing. You need to put in the same effort.
Yeah. And for years and years, or in my case, for many, many years, to undo the subconscious programming that I had and still have to a degree from my environment growing up and or my military experience. And I'll give you one that I do that you probably will like, right? I have a very colorful background from war, right? I did war a few times in Iraq and it was super nasty. But long story short, I didn't always, but I began to have a morning routine and it got more formalized as I came across, Catherine Ponder and Florence Shinn and yourself and Napoleon Hill and Bob Proctor and so on and so forth. But I always did one thing and I've carried it into my formal morning routine. And I also talk about as much as I can. As soon as I wake up and my feet go on the ground. Now I'm 38, right? So I'm still young and mobile and limber for the most part. However, I've taken serious damage in war. Should God left me here? He's like, I'm going to leave this one here, on several occasions. And so my body's like, my neck cracks, my back pops, like so on and so forth. But the first gratitude practice that I ever figured out and I put into place over a decade ago, daily, every single day, no matter if I travel or not, I think you're going to like this. I get out of bed, I put my feet on the ground and I'm very purpose driven, right? I'm very purpose driven, but I know I got something to do that day. 7 days a week. But I walk straight into the bathroom. And before I go to the bathroom or get my coffee, and I love coffee too, I wash my hands and then I do a 3-count cold water on my face. The first one's just a thank you. The second one is grateful for today. And the third one is grateful for my life. And that 3-part routine, then go do my gratitude letter. Sometimes I mix it up. I meditate first. Sometimes I read first. Depends on my mood and intuition at the time or the season, honestly. But it's like super powerful. And it's such a low hanging fruit that I think people miss. But you're able to set your energy, center your energy in the morning. Just like you said, program yourself and or continually your subconscious to have that gratitude state first thing. Now, of course, things will knock us off center, like lawsuits, like losing revenue, like, the things that tend to kind of cancer, people dying, someone walking out of your company, whatever it might be. Of course, that's life. That's business. You chose owning a business. You chose a difficult, rocky path. But if 80% of the time or 90% of the time you stay in that general gratitude state, life just opens up. Relationships open up. Your bank accounts get better. Your relationships get better, your homes get better, your food get better, your house get better. And it's not material. It's centered. It's within you. So I very much prescribe to that state in the morning and that action of putting water on my face. I always like to share with people, especially like yourself, that teach gratitude, because for me, it's super powerful.
Yeah, it sure is. It magnetizes you.
Mm-hmm.
It magnetizes you to the things that you're grateful for. No, you like Florence Scovel Shinn. She's my absolute, she was my first and favorite teacher.
Such a beast.
My mom gave me the game of life when I was 18 and I was going off to college. And I tell you, I used that book and it was just shocking to me that words, thoughts, and emotions and setting your mindset the morning with that material.
Yeah.
How magical the day was and how magnetic I was to success. It was shocking. I thought I had a miracle. I thought I had this miracle gift that nobody else had. It was really, really so surprising to see the flow of all the good things that I was describing with my words, thoughts, and emotions flowing into my life. It was, scratching your head. What? How does this work? Well, part of it is that practice and convincing yourself with words, thoughts, and emotions, which are all part of this daily practice. And I'm sure the work that you do.
Yeah.
But changing our words, thoughts, and emotions to be for things rather than against.
Proactive. Yeah.
Because when we're against something, when we don't want something, this, our subconscious doesn't understand negative.
No.
So I don't want to be late for an appointment and make a bad impression. I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to be overweight. All those I don't want to's. The picture of being late and making a bad impression, the picture of being overweight, the picture of being in debt ends up stamping itself on your brain. And so everything is going to make you magnetic to be overweight, to be in debt, to be late and make a bad impression. So you got to shift your words to be for what you want and against nothing.
The framing. And it's interesting, like even someone like myself who's very aware of this topic and has been practicing it for years and years and years, even at the forefront of my thinking, I still catch myself often talking how I really shouldn't be, or, used to be for the first 30 years of my life. And it's super powerful even to be able to correct it, to be aware enough to correct it is, in my opinion, super powerful, right? Because you're understanding these programmed subconscious acts, thoughts, words, patterns that your, body or your mind is telling you to do. So yeah, it's an incredible thing. And I'm grateful personally for, showing up to the Department of the Veterans Affairs about 12 years ago and asking for help. Like, I really need help. I'm extraordinarily angry. I'm violent. Like, can someone help me? And they're like, oh, here's all these drugs. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. And, I found meditation and I found gratitude and, the reps, like you said, the reps. And by no means am I overcome everything that I've been through. However, we've come a long way. And, it all starts with putting water on the face in the morning.
I love it. Well, I'm a big believer that also you increase the amount of good that comes into your life because you're giving what you've learned away. You've learned tools that have helped you to succeed, especially after the experiences that you've been through. I mean, my dad was a veteran of the Korean War. He was on in MASH units trying to save people's lives. And that changed him. And so I can, just based on what I know about his experience, I can only imagine how horrific that was for you. But what you did was you found solution, and then you found a solution, and then you ended up turning it into a way not only to help people that might have experienced similar trauma, but also other people in order to improve their lives. So as you're giving out all of these great tools and information and experience and strength and possibility, you're going to have this flow that continues to come back and bless you with great success also. Catherine Ponder, you mentioned her. also another great teacher. She talks about the law of giving and receiving.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just about money. It's also about time, talents, resources, experience, solutions.
Time.
So as you continue to give, I'm sure that you're going to continue to receive, and receiving cheerfully is always a good thing.
It's like, it's like you've lived it. Is Catherine still with us? Is she still? Do you know?
I want to say yes, but I don't know. I
She,
I don't think that she's in. If she is, she's not in the public eye much.
yeah, I think she's either close to 100 or she a few years ago out of nowhere, I didn't even know that she knew who I was, sent me a book on my Purple Heart Day, on my Alive Day, in purple ink, saying, what did she say? Grateful for you? Something along those lines. I'd have to go look. I haven't opened that version in a while, in purple ink too. And I was like, she knows who I am. Like, what?
What a blessing!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope you kept that book.
Of course. And of course I tried to, get a hold of her, but I'm not sure what the situation is with her. But complete masterclass today. And your foresight and perspective and experience, not to mention storytelling, is all exquisite and elegant, and most of all, in what I truly enjoy meeting and speaking with is class. You're very classy on how you teach everything, and I respect it. What I would like to do is I would like to make sure that anyone listening that's interested in any of your works or following you, to follow you, where would they find you, your book, so on and so forth?
So they can go to maymccarthy.com. They can download free chapters, both my books, and check them out, see if they like them. And if they do, they can certainly buy them there, or they can get them from any online retailer. There's the Path to Wealth and the Gratitude Formula that are both available. There's also links for, if you go to the media section, you'll see a bunch of links to different videos that will send you to my YouTube page, which is under my company name, Basalt, B-I. When you get to maymccarthy.com, you'll see a company name. Just go to that YouTube page, and there are tons of free videos that people can check out, not only interviews, but also some service talks and workshops and things like that. And they can certainly get a little bit more information on whatever topic or subject they're looking for.
Highly recommend your books. Highly. I mean, to the point that I was like, we're going to write it into that one.
Now, I have a question to ask you. I believe that I gave you a link to a free gift.
Yes. The team has it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
No, but the Goal Planning Guidebook is a tool that allows people to get really clear on their goals in 6 areas of their lives. So what I ask people to do is to ask themselves a series of questions and then answer those questions. And there'll be questions about what's their future like in regards to this goal. And if they achieve that goal, what would their life be like? What would they be doing? How would they be feeling? So they're describing what it looks like after they achieve the goal. That's what you want to be grateful for.
Yeah. It's also a premise of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Fundamentally speaking. We'll make sure we get that guide out to everybody on the email list, so on and so forth. So,
what they'll do is they'll hit the link, go to my website, go ahead and put in their name, and then they'll receive the download right there and then. We limit it to, so somebody can't come back and put in their name over and over and over again. We just limit them to getting one.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, if anyone wanted to follow your work, is there any social medias you would direct them to?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Usually I just use those. If I see something that I find interesting, I'll repost it. But I also announce upcoming events. I've got a couple of events. January, I'll be in Santa Barbara. February, I'll be in Chattanooga. March, I will be in South Africa.
Oh, you're a student. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're doing an event there on March 18th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that must be super exciting.
Yeah, I am excited. I've been hired by lots of different companies and lots of groups to speak all over the world. My book's been out for a little while, so you can imagine I've been on just about every media platform possible. And so all those interviews and things are posted on my website. COVID, we took a bit of a break because I don't like Zoom workshops as well
Yeah.
as like in-person workshops.
Yeah,
We
the
have
energy.
a lot of fun in person, lots of dynamic, lots of energy. It's great fun. But
Yeah.
a Zoom workshop, you don't have as much of of interaction. You can't scan the audience and kind of pick up people's reactions and then maybe try and address that. So you know how it is.
Oh yeah. In person, it just doesn't get any better. And for good reason, you should be speaking all over the world. And from a young author's perspective, it's super exciting for people to be like, hey, you want to come out here and speak? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're gonna
Well,
we're gonna make sure we get that in the schedule.
yeah, and you're sharing what you've learned and what's helped and it comes through so authentically because you really want to help other people achieve their goals and succeed and live better lives. So
You know,
I'm confident you're going to be speaking in lots and lots and lots of countries.
that would be super awesome. And thank you for saying that. One of the coolest, and because you'll understand this, one of the coolest compliments that I get is I'll travel to California. Armando, Armando, you were just on his show. Shout out to Armando. He organized me to come out to California, talk to, I think, 700 people. And someone walked up to me and they're like, hey, I know you. I read your book. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, you're exactly like your book. And then I've listened to your podcast. You're exactly like your podcast. And I follow you on Instagram and you're exactly like you are on Instagram. So the authenticity it's not that I pride myself on it, but I just think there's such a drastic lack of it, especially in the personal development space in the world. And what I found is, as I love to help people, I'm like fundamentally a giver, but I know that people see strength and leadership in me. Through that authenticity, I can deliver it. So when I'm asked to do whatever, it's like an honor. It's like, yeah, 100%. Let me help you out,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's a good time right before to meet with your CSO and say, use me.
Yep.
Make sure that if there are people in the audience that need to hear something other than what I planned, give me those messages. Give me those, as you referred to, those downloads and help me be of maximum service.
That's it. Just the mouthpiece. Let's get it,
Yeah.
You understand.
This was great fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I know you have given us a master class. Very much appreciate you. And I will make sure that you get your message out as far as it can go through our platforms. And just thank you for giving us your time. Very much so.
You're very welcome. Thank you.